Do you want to make an AI character model set up for animation that you can confidently call your own artistically? I'm going to take you through the whole 6-month process I went through to create my Everly Heights character generator today on Building Dreams. This tutorial is brought to you by Runpod. Go to runpod.everlyheights.tv to spin up a Stable Diffusion server in just a couple of minutes. Hey, it's Bill Meeks here for Building Dreams, where I help you use the latest AI technology to build dreams of your own, just like I'm using them to build the first cartoon set in my Everly Heights universe, a sitcom called Very Special. Today, I'm going to show you how I art-directed my Everly Heights character generator custom model over the last 6 months or so to create basic character models I can animate in Adobe Character Animator and After Effects. You know, actors to perform on the sets for my set generator model I trained a few months back on this very channel. This character generator model is sort of my holy grail for Everly Heights. I wanted a custom Stable Diffusion model that I could punch a prompt into and get any kind of character I can imagine back in a pose that's ready to animate. Now, I've been playing with this idea for months, and the results have always been promising, if a little funky. You'll see here on this slide that sometimes they look like pretty normal characters, other times they look like a complete horror show. Now, I had a few goals in mind when creating this character generator model. Goal number 1, generate a character standing in a T-pose, then layer my face on them using my custom Bill Meeks model to give them a distinctive look. You know, my look. This idea is inspired by, let's say, comic book artists like Alex Ross, who every character he draws, I mean, Wonder Woman looks just a little bit like Alex Ross. Now, my logic here is that freehand artists need references, and for facial expressions, that usually means they're looking over in a mirror, leading characters to all look just a little bit like the artist. I thought this was a great way to give Everly Heights a distinctive look and style, and to put a unique creative stamp on the project that is undeniably mine, since, you know, it's my face. My next goal was that I wanted to generate these character models on a one-color background, when possible, to make breaking the final images up for animation easier. Then, eventually, I wanted to use the Character Turner textual inversion from Civet AI to take the T-pose characters my model spits out and create character turnarounds to give me flexibility in posing while I animate them. I'll talk a little bit more about the character turnarounds later, but right now I just want to focus on a model that gets that T-pose right, you know, standing straight out, arms out. Now, to add complications to my already complicated plan here, Stable Diffusion recently released their SDXL model, which is a lot better than the 1.5 model I have been working with. Because SDXL takes a lot more processing power for training in particular, I'm going to be using my sponsor Runpod's virtual server to run my training on. I'll also take you through the process of running their custom Koya SS template, although if you're running on your local machine, the same steps should apply, mostly. Okay, we've got a lot to cover. Let's get into it. Okay, so first up, I want to outline the process I've been going through since November or December of last year. So I started out training with the Dreambooth plugin in Auto 1111, and you'll see a sample of my original data set here. You'll see that I basically made very basic characters in Adobe Illustrator with no faces, but with some shading and kind of a general look I liked. Then, you know, I just went through and I generated a bunch of blank face characters. I'd go through and inpaint a face using my Bill Meeks model. You'll see some examples here of the inpainted faces on top of my blank character models that I made in Illustrator. These are from various stages of the process. Like I said, I've trained this model several times, but I picked out a few select ones so you can see what I'm talking about as far as inpainting my face onto the characters. Then I fine-tuned a new model using Stable Diffusion 1.5 as the base model. And as you can see on your screen here, the results weren't great. A lot of them were really funky and weird and monkeys that were trees. I turns out, this was my first swing at this. I was training for far too many steps on each image. I was training for like 500 steps per image, and I think I had 20 images, so it just kind of got all fried out. Now, as I mentioned, I've taken several swings at training this model since then, and one of the big changes I made was I switched to using Rev Animated, a now discontinued Stable Diffusion 1.5 model, as my base model to give it sort of that animated look. Now, you'll see on your screen here my most recent swing at a 1.5 model from last week. You'll notice I trained all the models on a green screen background for easy editing. I do have to prompt the green screen background to make it work, even though all my training data had it, which is a little weird, but I rolled with it. And as you can see here, the model actually spat out some really good results. I could totally use this as a starting point for making my character turnarounds. Now, of course, that means I'd have to add another step to the process, which is generating a character with this model and then running it through character turnaround, which isn't ideal. I'd really like to simplify it, one prompt, one image out, and some cleanup, and I'm good to go with the animation. Now, even though I have this 1.5 model and it's pretty much ready to go, SDXL just released a couple weeks ago, and it's a much better model overall. So I want to use it if I can to sort of future-proof my production workflow. And it's a new process for me, but I figured it was worth the time to kind of learn it. And I'll try and show you what I did as I did it. Now, to train the SDXL model, I'm going to be using a curated data set from my 1.5 model that I mentioned earlier. Then I upscaled it to 1024 by 1024 with ControlNet Tile and edited them in Photoshop to be the best data set ever. Here's a closer look at a few of them. In particular, I really like that one in the upper left. She was sort of the one I tweeted out, "Look, my character model generator works." Now, I'm going to do an in-depth tutorial on Koya SS in the near future, which is a program you can use to train your custom models. And I consider it currently the best bet for training an SD model. Since we're working with SDXL, I'm going to run a virtual install of Koya on Runpod since my graphics card can't quite handle it. Full disclosure, Runpod is a sponsor of Building Dreams, but I really like them as a service. Go to runpod.everlyheights.tv to check them out and let them know we sent them your way. Now, if you already have Koya SS installed and your local computer can run it just fine, go ahead and use the chapters down in the description to skip ahead to more of the theory of character design in AI. Okay, assuming you have the Runpod account, if you want to install the template, go over to koya.everlyheights.tv. From here, find a graphics card. I suggest the 4090. Deploy the template and go to My Pods to wait for it to install. Now you'll need to click here to launch the Jupyter Lab tool over at port 8888. When it launches, you'll need to enter the password JUP1T3R ! I have it down there in the lower third too. Now here's where you can upload your Koya project that you might have already prepared on your local machine like I did. Just zip up your folders, upload them here, and then use the command line to unzip them to their own folder. I have a settings file for Koya ready to go for SDXL at koyasettings.everlyheights.tv. Once you have the settings file uploaded through your Jupyter Lab, go ahead and copy the path. Then launch your Koya install, go to the LoRA tab, then open my or your settings file by just pasting that path in there. I decided to use the LoRA model versus a full checkpoint since it will give me the flexibility to use this LoRA model with any SDXL checkpoint that happens to come down the line that I might want to use it with. Once the settings load in, go ahead and change my Everly Heights characters keyword to something unique. And then in the Folders tab, you can copy paths to your training folders over from the Jupyter Lab. Go back over to Jupyter Lab and open up a terminal window. Then use this wget command, which is also down in the video description, to pull down the SDXL model into your /workspace folder. Now go back into Koya, which already have the XL model path in there, and simply click Train. I'm going to be doing a full-on tutorial on Koya in the future to teach you what all the settings mean, but for now, this will get you started. Now, as I was training it, I noticed that after it got to about 1,000 training steps, it started looking really funky. Luckily, I have set up in my settings file the ability for it to generate a model every, I think, 300 steps or so. So I was able to go back and get the non-funky one. For the record, training this SDXL model on Runpod only took about $3 total to run the server. Now, as far as the final results, I really like them. They're really good. It holds on to that rev animated look while making all the characters look just a little bit like me, like Urkel here. My most surprising moment was discovering that thanks to the power of SDXL, I don't have to train a secondary character turnaround model. Turns out by using the LoRA with the default SDXL model and my keyword and the phrase character turnaround, I get surprisingly consistent character turnarounds that I can then break apart to animate. What a welcome surprise, because it saves me a lot of time. Now, I went ahead and generated some XYZ plots with these models using the same seed and the same prompt to see what the best settings might be. Now, after looking over these, I'm thinking the best settings is probably going to be DPM++ and somewhere between 7 to 9 CFG. The other options, frankly, all look really good though. Also, for the record, the final version of the model, because I said I had it render out a new version of the model every X number of steps, the final version seems like it works the best. And it doesn't look overcooked too, like in my previous tries. Now, as far as steps to run, it looks like 80 to 100 steps is probably my sweet spot between adding details and not adding weird third hands. And even with all this dialing in, the model is still a little inconsistent in what it's going to give me. But now the control net has been updated for SDXL and I can use open pose to sort of lock in the 4 poses I want, we should be good as far as consistency. I'm going to have to play around a lot more with the model and the settings and the best dimensions. But overall, I'm super duper happy with how it's looking now. I can very easily break apart most of these for animation without much, fixing in Photoshop or in painting in Auto 111. Now, last but not least, since this is a LoRA and it will be able to be used with any model within the prompt, I decided to go ahead and test out the LoRA strength too. It really starts to carry the style I provided at about a 0.6 weight. Then, as expected, by the time we get to a 1.5 weight, it's a complete horror show. I also love how it tried to put Everly Heights in the Back to the Future logo font for a few of these, since Everly Heights is in the name of the model. So that's how you can use Stable Diffusion and Koya SS GUI to curate an original style for character design, either from the base model or really from any model that you want to build from. And if you like my Everly Heights character model, hit subscribe and stay tuned. I'll be sharing it with supporters of this channel very soon. Thanks again for joining me today. I hope you found my journey to create a consistent character model using Stable Diffusion helpful, and I can't wait to share more about Everly Heights and how I'm using the latest AI technology to bring my creative dreams to life. See you next time. Read the stories and join the team at everlyheights.tv. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Everly Heights. Watch us build Everly Heights in Building Dreams by subscribing to @BillMeeksLA on YouTube. And why don't you like this video while you're at it to help people find our stuff? To contact us about partnership opportunities, or if you have questions about joining the team, send an email to billmeeks@everlyheights.tv.